Hey, welcome to another round of Painted Rhino podcast. And we're excited for the next couple, 2, 3, 4, 15. I don't know how long this is going to last. But I'm going to introduce, I'm just going to jump right into this. And then I'm going to let Adrian take over. Because he's got some good thoughts on the scripture we're going to be studying for the next couple of weeks.
Let's do it.
Let's jump into it. I want to start off by telling a story. I was a youth pastor in Natchez, Mississippi with Pastor Steve Pearson, and he collected pictures of Christ, just the face of Christ. And I don't know how many pictures of Christ he had on his office wall. Did you see it? He had, I'm telling you, it was they counted them one time, and I forgot how many they counted. But they were joking with him like they were going to auction them off. So they counted them. Number 99. You know, my favorite one, without a doubt, is, you may have seen it, but it was the first one I think I had ever seen in his office, and it was a picture of Jesus laughing.
No, I haven't, but I love that.
And I don't mean a smile. I mean a picture of Jesus just laughing. And for some reason, that just captured my attention and loved it.
Yeah.
So we're going to kick off. What we're going to talk about is Jesus and emotions.
Yes.
What do we do with that? So I'm just going to kick it off. And first thing I want to say that yes, Jesus had emotions. And sometimes we forget that, don't we? That he was 100% God, but he was also 100% man. And we kind of wanted this podcast to be me and him going back and forth, but he's smarter than me, so I need notes.
No. Last week I had notes. This week it's just I've gone over this 90,000 times, and I keep getting news, so I don't. Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So I first of all, I want to say, number one, that emotions are a gift from God. I don't know if we've ever thought about that before, but we are blessed with that.
It's true.
Yes,
it's true. And no, we don't talk about it like that at all. You know, we talk about, a lot of things with emotions, usually in a negative way. But I never thought of them as a gift, but I can see it.
They're a gift. And I was reading on a website called pulse.ng that lists some of the emotions that Christ had. And it brought out that thought that emotions are a gift. And here's what I want to say is all throughout, in my lifetime, and I've been in the church.
A minute.
Shut up. Over half a century. 53 years.
There you go.
And
see, you own that. You owned it. That's good.
I owned it.
That's good. Just step out there and be as old as you are. I'm not that old yet.
And you never will be, right, unless I die, and then you'll never mind. We won't go there.
I don't want to catch you. Let's just keep moving.
But I was thinking about it. If there's anything I think that we missed out on, it was the fact that Jesus was also 100% man.
Yeah.
He was human, and he had a human side. He felt emotions, and that's not something we do well, because emotions are messy,
right?
And I can't control them. That's not true.
Predict them,
right?
Yeah,
we can't control them. Come back next week. You have to come back for the next few parts of this, or you're going to view me and Adrian as heretics. But
you, not me so much, but you for sure.
Because I'm the one talking. I'll own that too, I suppose.
Yeah, there you go.
But we've left out addressing the humanity and the human side. When we look at a lot of stories, and Adrian's going to look at one, we recognize that Jesus, a lot of times when he was dealing with people, dealt with feelings first and the facts second. And sometimes we can't even hit somebody with the truth unless we meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
Where are you now? If I meet you where you're at, and I know you are listening to me, get me, understand me, then we can go from there. We don't stay all messed up in our emotions. That's not where we stay. I'm getting into part 2. Let me go.
Keep moving.
All right. Jesus showed empathy. He and he prepared things for. That's proven in John 19. It's proven when he left things taken care of for his mother. With John, said, "Okay."
But that's after. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
He showed emotion. He showed compassion. There's tons of these stories. I'm just giving some. In Psalm 103:13, God is a compassionate God. He healed people physically, spiritually, who were suffering. Matthew 19 and John chapter 8.
Yep.
So keep that. He showed happiness. Did we ever think about that?
No, because he's always this. Man, this sounds awful, and I don't care. You can just turn it off here if you want to, because I know how this sounds. I don't care how it sounds. But in this day of medical marijuana, right? We've always seen Jesus portrayed as like, dude, everything's okay. It's gonna be all right, dude. But I don't get too excited. I don't get too upset. Everything's in control. I have one little box and I stay right in it. Happiness isn't that box though. That laughter, that image, I want to see that picture.
Yeah.
I'm going to
look it up.
I'm going to find it.
Find it.
Because, I don't want
It's popular.
to interrupt too much, but no, we don't talk about him being happy, him having good times and laughing and sitting around the table enjoying his friends. We don't talk about that.
But you know what drew me to that picture? Because we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
My heart was like, that's it. Cool. I was drawn to it. And it was like, of all of these pictures you got, that's the one. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Let's go on. I don't want to take up too much time because Adrian's got a lot of good thoughts. But happiness, when he sent the disciples, this is in Luke 10, when he sent the disciples out on a mission and they came back, he was happy to see them when they returned. He was excited to see them when they returned. He showed sadness. We're going to talk about that. When he wept over Jerusalem in Luke 19:41, he showed sadness. Here's the tough one. He showed anger. How are we going to deal with that? We'll come back for part 2. We're going to deal with that. So I don't want to get into that. He showed anger at the Pharisees. He called them a brood of vipers in Matthew 23.
He called them names.
Wow.
He was upset. So again, you said you don't want to get into that, but you just...
We're going to get into that.
I thought about it. So I can't wait for part 2. I don't know why. Let's skip 1. We're going to go to 2. I'll be right. No, just kidding.
But you look, anger with the Pharisees. You call them a brood of vipers in Matthew 23. The money, everybody knows the money changers in the temple.
Right.
That if you want to look up that story, it's in John chapter 2, beginning at verse 14. We're not beginning at verse 14, but that's the main one. He flipped the tables over.
Yep.
He flipped the tables over, whooped them, drove them out. I think is what it says. What does that mean? How does that look like? What do you mean? I'm just thinking.
He made a whip, didn't he? He literally whipped them out of the temple. It's like, get gone.
I didn't want a whooping from my dad, but I definitely don't want a whooping from Jesus. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, and he didn't make them get their own switch though. That's a different.
Oh, that's another story. No, I'm not getting into that. I'm getting. You're gonna make me tell that one sometime. But anger, he was angry. He felt agony. Agony in the Garden of Gethsemane in Matthew 26, 36 through 46. I'm saying these references. You can read them on your own because I don't want to get. He showed them.
We'll take the notes. We'll put them in the comments after.
Cool.
That way, it'll be in the description, so you'll have all the verses that he's talking about because you're bringing a ton of stuff for us, man. Thank you.
Great idea. Let's think of it. Here's one. I can't find it anywhere. Please leave it in the comment if you find of another reference. The only time Jesus showed amazement was in Mark chapter 6 when he said he was amazed at their lack of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That hit me. I think, well, I don't want to get into that because I'm not sure of the exact Greek word,
Right.
but the idea in our translation is shock,
Yeah. Surprise.
surprise.
Yeah.
And he was surprised, like, really? That's interesting. That's a whole study by
huge.
itself. So the last few thoughts I have to say is, so why are we talking about Jesus and emotion? Why is this so important? Okay. I want to look at Hebrews 4. I should have had this ready.
Oh, you're good.
But no. By the way, while I'm looking this up, if you have not downloaded the Bible app,
We are not sponsored, but
we'll take it.
But dude, it's amazing. YouVersion it's changed the world. People get to have the Bible in their hands no matter where they are, and it's awesome.
We'll read the NIV first. How about that?
Where are we going? You said 4?
Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15 says this, and it's life-changing and revolutionary if we really absorb what it says, and Adrian may get into this later, but it says this in the NIV, and we'll read it in another version in a minute. But it says, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
What? But we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are. Yeah. Come back for part 2, and we'll deal with the second part of that verse that says, yet he did not sin. Oh. So we're going to deal with that. And just for fun, I want to look it up in the Message. Well, the New Living Translation. Let me read you that one, because I read that the other day. It says, the high priest of ours understands our weaknesses, for he faced all of the same testings we do, yet he did not sin. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read the Message. Let me read it out of the Message real quick. Thank you for your patience. Now that we know what we have, Jesus, this great high priest with ready access to God, let's not let it slip through our fingers. Listen to this. We don't have a priest who is out of touch with our reality. Mm-hmm. Let that sink in. He's been through weaknesses and testing, experienced it all. All but the sin.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. What is this? Why is this so important? Because, it's important for several reasons. Because, number one, what we would have a tendency to do is, okay, God, you're going to judge me for that? Mm-hmm. Who do you think you are? You're just sitting up in heaven watching this whole thing you created. Yep. But God in his wisdom came to earth himself in the form of a man, 100% God, 100% man, and experienced it with us. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
You mean God gets me? He gets me.
He gets you in your brokenness. He gets you in I don't know. When I was growing up, it was like rub some dirt on it, walk it off, right? Now it's like take some medicine because you're broken. It's like everything. Now everybody is on something because we have an emotional disorder of some sort. Mm. Man, Jesus walked in this body. So he gets, it goes, the understanding that goes so far to understanding yourself and accepting yourself and loving others. And I'm going to start going off, so I got to stop. But
no,
it just, if you don't get that he gets you, you've got the wrong picture of Jesus. And hopefully we'll get through that in the next couple of weeks. So I'm sorry. Keep moving.
No, this is just the fact that blows my mind, and then you rock and roll. What blows my mind is that he had every right to stay up in heaven. He created us. Right. It's all our stuff. He had every right to say, He chose to give his one and only son to experience that and be
It's crazy.
the one
To go through so that he could, and you're going right where we're going.
and the agony that Jesus felt, that emotion he felt in the garden.
Mm.
He chose to die for us, even though he was in agony about it.
Yeah.
So 100% God, that's the second part of that verse. 100% man, I'll say the second part too. Both, that is, you have to grasp the whole thing.
Yes.
Because that's what really will impact your heart if you realize that. So all those emotions that, and I'm gonna go back to the church. Emotions are really messy, and so is ministry. If we're really doing real ministry, it's messy and all of that. But we do not serve a God who doesn't get it.
Yep.
And he meets us where we're at. Next week we'll talk about. I'm gonna just leave it at that this week. Go for it, bro. You're up.
That's so good. I mean, it's so good to grab a hold of understanding that he gets it. But I think that for me, the best way to understand it is to look at an example that has a lot of emotion in it, and a lot of his emotion in it. And so I want to paint this picture for us so that we read the scripture a different way. And we talked about it a little bit last week with Mike.
Right.
So that we read the scripture first and foremost, that we are the love of Christ. That God sent his only son. Why? What's the first part of that? For God so loved. Stop there, because that's huge. But we don't get that deep into there because, we got to read the rest of the verse and memorize it for Bible school, right? It's just that simple. And then we're told God is love. And all the way through, the church is described as the bride of Christ. Right? When we've fallen away in Revelation, he says, come back to your first love. Over and over and over and over again, our love relationship, our intimate one-on-one, Adam walked with God in the cool of the evening through the garden. Think about that. What are you doing tonight? I think I'm going to walk around with God for a while and just talk about, God stuff.
I'm going to hang with God.
Yeah, what are you doing? I'm just going to kick back and talk to God under the papaya tree. Papayas even grow on trees? I don't know. But it was the reason for our existence. You're looking for the meaning of life. You can right now record this part of YouTube for the rest of eternity. Here's the meaning of life. The reason you're here, right? God had angels that are required to worship him because he's God. The earth would worship. Creation would worship. Jesus said, when the Pharisees said, you need to shut your disciples up because they're praising you and we don't want to hear that. He said, I'll tell you what, if they're not praising me, the rocks themselves will cry out, right? Even creation. And all through Psalms, what do you hear? Creation worshiping, all of creation, right? He had everything that he needed to worship him because he is God. He wanted and needed, I said that, a love relationship with someone who chose to worship him, who said, we see you and you're amazing and you're God, but I have the ability to say, I'm going to take care of me and you do you. But instead go, no, I want to worship you because I want that one-on-one walking in the garden life with you. I choose you. So at the fall of man, what we see is this great love relationship between two that were so perfectly intertwined and built. We were made in his image. We see that torn apart. And all of this book, all of history, all of life, all of Jesus' ministry was for one purpose. And that was someone chasing after their lost love to win them back. Because we are his soulmate, right? We do complete, not that we are God or make God better. hear me. Don't get extreme and stupid, and don't take a little piece of it and make me a heretic. Take the whole thing. He needs us because he chose to love us, right?
Right.
We love him because he first loved us. That's the scripture.
We wouldn't even know what it was.
We have no idea what love was if it wasn't for him showing us. And what's the best way to show? Greater love has no man than this, than a man lay down his life, right? For his friend. He loves us that much. So we're going to read this story, and we're going to let it go where it goes. Yeah?
I'm waiting, dude. Hit me with it.
This is the story of Lazarus. And we could go for hours upon hours upon hours with this one story. And there's so many little things missed, so many big things. I've got another one today. Did you know in the next chapter that it talks about the Pharisees plotting to kill Lazarus again because so many people were coming to Christ through him? Okay, so I'm getting distracted. But that's what I'm saying. Who knew that? Who knew that? Very few people, right? Because, we get the story and then we don't get all the stuff. So we're going to dig into this stuff. Now, a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore the sisters sent to him and said, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. You love this guy. You have a relationship with him. You know him. It's not some stranger on the side of the road that reaches out to you. Jesus, we're special because you love us, and we reciprocate that, right? The guy you love, man, Jesus, he needs you. So come on and save him, heal him, because they knew he'd heal, right? When Jesus heard that, he said, the sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. I'm not going to break into that because that goes forever too. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. Again, for the second time in this short passage, just 5 verses, the Bible has told us how much Jesus loved Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. Right? These are his friends.
I think later on, if you read, I'm sorry to break in, but you make such a good point. I think the disciples, whenever they were in town, whose house did they hang out at?
Exactly. And that's the next chapter where they're just going over there and hanging. It's crazy. And all the people were gathered outside because they wanted to see Jesus. And the Bible says, and they wanted to see Lazarus, who used to be dead. Right? It's like, whoa. Okay. So keep moving. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, let's go to Judea again. Hey, Jesus, your best friend's sick. Come heal him. I think I'll stay here for a minute.
How rude.
Right? Right? I mean, it's like, wait, what? But he stayed for another 2 days. And we'll get to the math in a minute, which is just beyond me, right? And then he said, let's go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, lately the Jews sought to stone you. And you're going there again? Right? And he says, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. Now he's talking about the Jews who are seeking to assassinate him, right? That's not where we're focused today, but that's why that weirdness is right there in the middle of this story, okay? These things he said, and after that he said to them, our friend, again, term of endearment for Lazarus, our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up. The disciples said, Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get well. However, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought he was speaking about taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I'm glad for your sakes I was not there.
What? Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, he's glad that he didn't go and heal him, which that's where people get twisted here in a few minutes. But we're going to keep going, right? that you may believe. Nevertheless, let's go to him. Then Thomas, who is called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us go that we may die with him. In other words, they're going to try to kill him, but let's do it. Let's go with him, which is crazy because doubting Thomas just stepped out in faith. What? Yeah, we don't talk about that, do we? Keep moving. You see, there's so much that we don't do.
Yes.
So much in the story we don't see, right? I am the resurrection and the life is the section that they title this. I kind of love it, kind of don't. Stay with me. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb for 4 days.
Woohoo.
Okay? Jewish law said their speculation was that the spirit hovered around the body for 3 days, right? Jesus made sure he was not just dead, but he was dead to anyone who could say he wasn't dead.
So he removed all
doubt, right? I mean, not only was he dead, he was in the tomb. So he was embalmed with their spices and their everything and wrapped in the tomb, right? Now, Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Okay? Now, Martha, as soon as she heard Jesus was coming, went to meet him. But Mary was sitting in the house. Now, Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you would have been here, my brother would not have died. Even now, I know whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Did she just say, but I know you can do this? I think she did. She just said it, right? In a minute, she doesn't say it, but she just said it. She said, nevertheless, whatever God asks of you, I know he'll give you. She still had hope. She still had faith, right? Yeah, we usually write her off because of this next part. Don't write her off. She's better than you think. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again at the resurrection at the last day. So many times we read that and we're like, oh, she's copping out, right? She's taking the easy way. It's not, I don't really believe, and I do believe that you're the Christ because she says it. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? That's a yes or no question. She did not give a yes or no answer. She said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you're the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world.
That's not what I asked.
Exactly. And that's the end of the recorded conversation. Okay, I'm not going to get too deep there because, again, we could go lost on this, but there's something
There's
really
several
want to hit.
things my mind is...
I know. And we could go and be lost and just drag you people along for eternity, which you don't want to do that. Okay, so when she had said these things, she went her way and secretly called Mary, her sister, saying, the teacher has come and is calling for you. Well, we did not read anywhere that he was calling for her. Ever. I just read the whole thing to you. He never said, Martha, do you believe? Oh, and go get your sister. Oh, nay. He didn't mention it. And she went to her secretly to pull her away from the mourners, because people were actually in those days paid to come and mourn and grieve and wail with you, which is nuts. It's like, I just want the people that I know loved my brother to be there when my brother passes, right? But that's not how they did things.
But what just stuck out in my mind real quick?
Do it.
The teacher?
Mm-hmm.
He's about to take her understanding of who he is to a whole another level, isn't he?
Yep.
That's so good. She called him the teacher.
I mean, she calls him rabbi here, so that's how she sees him. And he says, I am the resurrection. Not that God is going to do it through me. Ooh. Yeah, did you get that? He said, I am the resurrection and the life. She said, I know your father will give you whatever you ask. Your father, your God, Did she get father, son? Or did she get rabbi is like the son to the father, like your disciples or your sons? Is that where she was? Right? So he takes her deeper. I'm getting lost. So it's so hard not to, right? The teacher has come and is calling for you. As soon as she heard that, Martha didn't tell her the first time. Martha didn't go back to the house and say, hey, the teacher's coming. Jesus is on his way. Martha went for her own one-on-one. She left Mary behind. She left her in the house. And then she has to go to her secretly and say, oh, he's coming for, because Mary immediately jumped up and went.
Good, yes.
Right? We miss that.
We do.
We never talk about that.
Do.
Why? Because Martha wanted that time to seek that question, to find that answer. And who knows? Who knows? I mean, I can't go too far with speculation, right? All right. So now Jesus had not yet come into the town, but was in the place where Martha had met him. He still hadn't even got there yet, right? And had moved, right? Then the Jews who were with her in the house and comforting her, when they saw that Mary rose up quickly and went out and followed her, saying, she's going to the tomb to weep there. Then when Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet. She fell down at his feet. We lost my sister many years ago in a car accident. When I got that news, I was crushed. And I literally fell to the ground in grief and shock and just in pain. Right? Mary came where Jesus was and saw him. She fell down at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you'd have been here, my brother would not have died. Jesus does not put her through the paces he put Mary through, or Martha through. He simply says, therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews that came with her weeping, he groaned in his spirit and was troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? All he said to Mary, where is he? That's it. That's it. That's the whole thing. And they said to him, Mary, because she was so broken, they said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. I'm going to finish so that I could get it done. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him. And some of them said, could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind have also kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, again, groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave. The stone lay against it. Jesus said, take away the stone. I'm not going to go too far any further.
Wow.
But I want to bring out a couple of things. One is shame on us for thinking and saying, because for years this is what I've been taught. He was so upset when he saw their unbelief, right? Because in his prayer he says, so that they can see, right? And he told the disciples, I'm glad so that you can see, right? He wasn't moved when he told the disciples that. He was moved when he saw Mary fall in pain, completely broken by grief at his feet. He didn't say something out loud. He didn't have some snarky remark like you should believe, right? Or, oh, ye of little faith, how long must I put up with thee? Which he has said before. He just said, where did they lay him? And then he went and again groaned in his spirit. For years, we've heard Jesus was so upset because of their unbelief. And he wept because they didn't believe in him. Because their faith wasn't strong enough. Oh, crap, that's just hooey. I mean, that's a word my mom would use.
Hooey?
Hooey. It's not right. Read that story. And read that story with the vision and the painting of he loves his lost love. And he's coming to find us. and he has emotions because he's 100% man. God from heaven could be compassionate. God from heaven could be angry. God from heaven could love from a distance. God from heaven was a jealous God. God had emotions. It took Jesus' physical birth and walking through this world to feel our emotions. And then finally, what's one emotion that God could not feel from heaven? Why does God need to feel all our emotions? Why? Because we are his love. And when you're in a love relationship, you have to communicate and you have to understand and you have to participate. And he can't participate if he can't understand. And if you have emotions that he doesn't have or hasn't experienced, he can't do anything about it. How many times have you saw someone in pain and you go, I don't know what to say? I'm just saying, without Jesus, God the Father looks and says, I don't know what to say. But with Jesus, the one emotion you can't feel from a distance is empathy. Grief and empathy are intimate emotions. I can be angry with people I don't care about. I can be compassionate to people I don't know, but I cannot grieve with them and I cannot empathize with them unless I am with them and connect to them. His love for you is so great that he went from not having to feel pain to feeling all the pain you can imagine, so that he never has to look at you and say, I don't know what to say.
He gets it.
He gets us.
Can I say
So
something?
deep.
I have
Do
to
it.
say something because I remember when I was 9 years old, my mother passed away of bone cancer. I don't remember much of what anybody said. Let me tell you what I do remember. People coming over to the house. I do remember walking out of the funeral and the foyer lined with people bawling, crying with us. Two little 9-year-old cotton top.
Yeah.
Yes, I had hair many, many moons ago. I'll never forget it.
Oh, because they grieved with you. We're going to talk more about how it's important, why it matters that he feels our emotions. But some of us today are feeling a grief we've never felt before. Some of us today are feeling an emptiness we've never felt before. Some of us are feeling betrayed. Some of us are feeling left behind. Some of us are feeling unwanted, unvaluable, not necessary. Some of us are feeling like there's no one who knows what to say. But not only does he know what to say, he knows what to do. And he's there. It's crazy because it goes beyond this. If Jesus didn't feel all of those emotions, his death on the cross would not have fulfilled the mission. If he had not experienced everything we have experienced, then he could not be the total sacrifice for what we deal with. He could not bring a broken person back unless he also knew that brokenness. So we got a little excited there.
We did. That's some deep stuff. So we're just read, and reread it if that's what you want to do this week. And next week we'll talk about some other stuff that has to do with this.
So remember that he gets you no matter what you're going through, and why that's important and how that affects us, and the fact that it's not just our feelings, but that you want to say?
I was just gonna say, Jesus said.
You can't tell him that yet. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Jesus was grace and truth, and those are balanced. You can't go too far this way, and you can't go too far that way.
Oh.
But he was both. And when you meet people with where they're at with the truth, so we'll talk about that next week.
So we will see you next week. We'll post
Until
the
next
one.
time.
Until next time. Part 2. Do not miss part 2. So you want to do until next time again, because that might be like the sign off from now on. Just
Okay. Until next time.
Do I have to point? That's good. Okay. No? Maybe not? We love you guys. Thank you. Until next time. Oh, man, you changed on me.